You belong among the wildflowers. You belong on a boat out at sea. Sail away, kill off all the hours. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, go find a lover. Go away somewhere all bright and new. I have seen no other who compares with you. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong on a boat out at sea. You belong with your love on your arm. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, go find a lover. Run away, let your heart be your guide. You deserve the deepest of cover. You belong in that home by and by. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong somewhere close to me, far away from your trouble and worry. You belong somewhere you feel free. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong somewhere close to me, far away from your trouble and worry. You belong somewhere you feel free. You belong somewhere you feel free.
I could just sit here and listen to Kyle sing all morning, and that would be church enough for me. So if you want some more Georgia Kyle church, come on Friday evening, Friday the 13th. We ain't scared. We're going to launch Kyle's CD release party. Music is my medicine. Isn't it medicine too? Yes. Amen. So Kyle suggested that we do Tom Petty songs to honor Tom Petty. So I was sitting there listening to this song just now and thinking about, you know, you belong in a wildflower. You belong with your love on your arm. You deserve it. You know, I don't know. Some other people might have told you that you don't. But I'm here to disagree with them this morning. You deserve all the good that God has in store for you because you're here, because you're a human, having a spiritual being, having a human experience. If anybody ever said to you that you were a worthless sinner, a worm of the dirt, I'm here to tell you that they were lying. Because God is good all the time, and so are you. Let's say, God is good all the time, and so am I. Tell somebody, God is good all the time, and so are you. Amen. This is one reason that I love Unity so much, is because we get to look at things differently. You know, I'm not going to tell you how it is. I'm going to ask you to figure that out for yourself. I'm going to tell you what I think things are, how I think things work, but we all have our own perception. On life, on spiritual law, on God, we all have our own perception of God, the world, each other, and ourselves. I'm going to talk more about that next week. I really wanted to talk about our law of mind action this morning. Thoughts plus feeling equals outcome. And the Holy Spirit said, wait till next week. Read up on it a little more. I want you to talk about this morning. The Unity wings have always been a very powerful symbol to me. Charles Fillmore, one of the co-founders of the Unity movement, along with his wife, Myrtle. Charles spent a lot of time in what he called the silence. Some days he would spend 4 or 5 hours just in the silence, in the stillness. You know, there was a story about when his kids were little, and the neighbor kids would come and play, and they'd be running around in the house, and Charles is sitting there in his chair with his eyes closed, not saying anything. And they would say, what's wrong with your dad? He's in the silence. Kind of like Stephen King said, that when the neighbor children come play with his kids, and he's sitting at his computer, the kids say, don't talk to him when he's sitting in that chair because he gets grumpy. The same thing on a different end of the spectrum. He's in the silence. He's in the silence. Can you imagine if you grew up and you went to your grandpa's house, right? And he's like in the silence all day? My life might be a little different. Or maybe not. So we get to look at things differently in Unity. We were at the Canoga Conference Center last week, and it's got a beautiful, still lake. You can go out in kayaks, go for a walk around the lake, and it's very still, quiet at night. And there's a beautiful cross, giant cross across the way. And Becky sent me a picture of it and said, isn't it nice that they put this wonderful electric chair across the lake for us to look at? Can you show the picture of my pendant? I got this at Unity Village some years ago when I lived out there in Missouri. It's made out of hematite, and it has the Unity wings across it. A very powerful symbol that Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity movement, received one day when he was in the silence, when he was in the stillness. He asked Holy Spirit to give him a symbol that would represent our movement and a word. And he got the word unity and the symbol of the winged disc, or the solar disc, which is actually an ancient symbol. I know for sure it was used by the Egyptians, perhaps by others as well. And there's just huge symbolism in this. But when you put it on the cross like that, it makes me think of it differently. And Becky, to her credit, also sent me this beautiful quote from Joseph Campbell. I don't know how many know Joseph Campbell, his work, The Power of Myth, or the PBS special with Bill Moyers, The Power of Myth. Joseph Bliss coined the phrase, follow your bliss. He said this about the cross. If we think of crucifixion only in historical terms, we lose the symbol's immediate reference to ourselves. So he's telling us this is a symbol that represents our nature. Jesus left this mortal body on the cross, the sign of earth, to go to the Father with whom he was one. We similarly are to identify with the eternal life within us. This symbol also tells us of God's willing acceptance of the cross, that is to say, of God's participation in the trials and suffering of human life, so that he is here with us, not by way of a fall or a mistake, but with rapture and joy. Joseph Campbell talked about this concept of the monomyth. I've shared it with you before, that all myths have a thread running through them, that all myths are pretty much the same story, being told in different ways, the monomyth. You see this in Star Wars. George Lucas was hanging out with Joseph Campbell when he was working on the first Star Wars movie. So you see a lot of this hero's journey where someone is forced to leave home and they go and they get this cup or chalice or information and they bring it back home and then they share it with the people, but they have to go through a lot of trials first. So this is part of Joseph Campbell's monomyth, and some of the symbols are common to all cultures. Like we talked about Noah's Ark recently. Almost every culture has a flood story in some way or another. So Joseph Campbell tells us that Christianity is the only myth, the only mythological system in which somebody brings something, some divine personage brings a gift to humanity, and then there's a fall. Every other culture, when somebody brings something to humankind, it's seen as a raising up, a transformation, a lifting up in consciousness. So perhaps the story of the snake bringing the apple to Eve, maybe we got that wrong. Just something to think about in your prayer time. Joseph Campbell tells us here, God is within us, not as a mistake, but as rapture and joy. And so, when we put these wings on the cross, we can see it in a different way. And also, these two wings, these two arms, reminds me of two powers that we possess as humans. The powers of love and wisdom. Love and wisdom. You can see that represented in the story of Jesus dying on the cross, where he looks down because he's up in consciousness, right? And he says, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. He might as well have said, forgive them because they don't know what they are. They don't realize that they're reflections of the divine. They don't realize that they have powers of love and wisdom that they can use to shape their experience. We call God one presence, one power. Now that's not two different things. It's two ways of describing the same thing. And so the power and the presence of God are reflected in us as divine wisdom and divine love. We talk about God as spiritual principle, universal law. Divine wisdom is how we express principle and law. And this is impersonal. It works the same for everybody. Don't matter who you are. The presence of God is expressed through us. This thing that we have a relationship with as divine love. See, sometimes it seems like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth in unity. When we talk about God is principle, and God is law, and God is impersonal, and God is not a person. Y'all have heard me rant and raving about that a little bit, haven't you? But at the same time, I'm saying, oh, thank you, God. Oh, beloved God, I love you so much. I feel your presence within me, all around me. See, this is resolved when we look at God is power and God is presence, because God is impersonal law, but God is personal to us as a Holy Spirit that dwells within us and all around us all the time. Am I making sense with that? So it's not like it's two things, but God isn't a person. Like God isn't on a cloud. He's not judging us. We judge ourselves. And sometimes I want to say, Father, forgive me, because I forgot who I am. You know, sometimes I see how people behave in this world. And doesn't it seem like every time you turn on the news or turn on your computer that somebody else got shot, or there was a storm somewhere, or some kind of craziness going on? And I ain't even going to mention politics. I mean, it's just like craziness every time I look in the world and see what's going on. But you know what? Every Sunday, I'm going to bring y'all back. There's one presence and one power. It's everywhere all the time, and it's good. God is only good. Our foundational principle, we call it our statement of being. We say it every Sunday. It's the first of our 5 principles. There is only one power, one presence in my life, active in the universe, God the good. God, my good. God expressing good as me. But the problem is also the blessing, is that we get free will on how we're going to express that presence. So we can do that any way we want to, and sometimes we don't do it in ways that seem all that good. So I could see somebody doing something and say, you know what? They're just ignorant. And I don't mean that as a derogatory remark. Just plain ignorant. They don't know spiritual law. You know, we know that we are love and wisdom expressing. Yes? It reminds somebody, you are love and wisdom expressing. In case you forgot, you are love and wisdom expressing. But there's a lot of people that don't know that. There's people that don't know spiritual law. There's people that don't understand that we are all one, and so whatever we do to somebody else, we're really doing to ourselves. Yes? Yes. There's people that don't understand that whatever you put out, you get back. Yes? You get back whatever you put out. Sooner or later, karma going to get you. Look out. What comes around goes around. You heard that a million times. Well, it's true. And so if I know that, why am I going to do something that's going to hurt another person? Because I'm ignorant. Because I don't know about that. So part of our job as metaphysicians is to help other people wake up to that fact. And how do we do that? Practice. Our example. What we do, how we live our lives is going to say more than anything that we can say. You know what they say in the 12 steps, right? You might be the only big book that somebody else ever sees. And y'all know the big book is their book. With the key to the universe in it. Read it. It says that deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. Did you know the founders of AA were hanging out with Emmett Fox, a New Thought minister and writer? So we're everywhere. Because God is everywhere. There's only one presence, one power. I'm going to bring y'all back to that every Sunday. No matter what we go through during the week, no matter what we see on television, no matter what we read on our computer, I'm going to bring you back to there's one presence and one power, God the good, active and at work in our lives all the time. And it's our job to use our powers of love and wisdom to rise up to where we can see that. And we have to use them together. If we're all love, if we're all, oh, my beloved, we're mushy and sentimental and overly emotional. You ever seen a bird with a hurt wing trying to fly? That's us. When we're all love, we got to have the wisdom with it too. But what happens if we're all wisdom? We can be cruel. We can be heartless. We can be too much in our head. So this love and wisdom is represented by our head and our heart. And we use those two together to create our experience. And so when we're using them in harmony, we're able to rise up. We're able to fly. We're able to rise up in what? Consciousness. Consciousness, like the example that Jesus gave us, to see with God's eyes, to see from this high vantage point as expressions of love and wisdom. I used to be part of a group called the Free Cherokees, and we were a group of people that were of mixed blood that wanted to get together and learn about Native American ways and practice Native American spirituality. And so we had these gatherings we would go to, and one time I went to Ohio to a meeting, and we were camping out, and it was funny. I don't know how this happens, but I end up being the leader of everything I get in, and I don't really mean to most of the time. It's like everybody else takes a step back, and I'm standing out there like, what happened? So somehow I got to be the leader of our little group, and I was leading the lodges and stuff, and Kyle wrote a song about this. I was helping get our camp set up, and I had a bucket of water. The person beside me had an armful of wood, and the chief of the whole bunch yells out, "Chop wood, carry water." He thought that was funny. He was pointing me to the idea that before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. We still do the same things we do, but we bring that essence of love and wisdom to it when we begin to wake up to the truth of what we are. Reflections, expressions of the divine. So we're still moving through the world doing the same thing, chopping our wood, carrying our water. But we do it from a different perspective, from a different consciousness when we begin to wake up. So I put my tent up next to this tree, and there's a little bug I noticed, a little brown, ugly bug. Clawed into the bark of the tree right there. And as the week went by, I began to notice that little bug began to split open. I could lay in my tent and look at it. And every day I'd get up and it was a little different. And one day, it was about cracked halfway open, and there was this little green thing wiggling around in there, and it was kind of sticky and gross. I wanted to help it, just rip that open, let it out, and then one day, a little green cicada appeared. It was so beautiful and iridescent green, and it had its wings spread out to dry off in the sun. And the next couple of days, as I would go back and forth from my tent, it was going up the tree. Until finally one day I came by and it was gone. It had flown off. I've been thinking about that bug here the last few days, because it reminds me of me. Kyle was going to sing another Tom Petty song here in a minute. It's called Learning to Fly. And we're all learning to fly. We're learning to use our powers of love and wisdom in ways that bless the world. And sometimes we're like the little bug that's all brown and hanging on for dear life to the tree that doesn't know what it is or what's about to happen. You know? Now, there may be areas of our life where we are soaring. We're like, I got this. I know how to do this. I got my love and my wisdom vibe on. I'm up here. And I believe that's how Jesus healed people. Because he would come around people and he would be all in his love vibe and they would be lifted up because of it. Just by being in his presence, he's radiating this love vibe and he's drawing other people up. You know, one of the questions he asked somebody was, do you want to be healed? Do you believe that you can be healed? Well, come on up here with me. The view is much better from where I'm at. Up here, come on up. You notice he didn't go down there with them. He didn't get down in the dirt with them. When they said, oh, Jesus, you know, I've got this demon inside of me and I don't know what to do. He didn't say, well, you know, I remember that one time I had one in me and it was awful. Let me tell you. Or, oh, Jesus, I've got leprosy and my arm is falling off. Oh, man, I had it so bad one time. Both legs. He doesn't get down there. Just by his vibe and his presence and his vibration, he's up there drawing people. He said, he's quoted as saying in the New Testament, when I am lifted up, I will draw all unto me. When I am raised up in consciousness, when I've got my love and my wisdom vibe going, I'm going to draw other people up with me. So you might be there, and that's great. Because if you're up there, you know what you're doing? You're giving other people permission to be up there too. You're showing them, hey, you know, you can be up here. Like, my life is good. But of course, there might be another area where you're like struggling. You're transforming. Has anybody here ever been present and conscious at the birth of a child? Whoa, man. There's a lot of hollering going on. It's messy. It's like, whew, Lord. It's that bug trying to get out. But it's also one of the most beautiful things that can happen. You know, I couldn't have opened that casing up for that bug because its wings wouldn't have been strong enough to fly if I had helped it. We have to go through that. And you know, the blessing is that I can look back at situations in my life that were really tough. And I can say, man, if I can go through that, this ain't nothing. I got this. I can look back at some of the worst points in my life and know that God was there the whole time. Sometimes I felt it and sometimes I didn't. But when I look back, I always saw it. So even in the worst times of our lives, we can feel gratitude. And that's something I'm going to talk about with you next week, because these two wings of love and wisdom, the way that we practice it is through our third principle, the law of mind action, that says what? Thoughts plus feelings equals outcome. It's divine wisdom plus divine love equals our experience. So those are the two wings that we use to fly. This is the way that we express divinity. And the feeling part is the key. I've been reading this book by Neville Goddard. Has anybody heard of him? He was a New Thought writer way back, and he wrote this book called Feeling is the Key. And if you've ever read the book Power versus Force by David Hawkins, he gives that scale of vibration. And what's up there towards the very top, one of the highest vibes that you can experience on this planet is what? Gratitude, appreciation, you know, and that being able to feel that gratitude even in the midst of trouble is the key to experiencing the blessing, and no matter what is going on in your life. And it's not the gratitude of the old paradigm of, oh, well, this is, this is God's will. And I just got to be happy and accept this when you're seething on the inside, right? No, it's knowing that we have a choice on how we're going to use our powers, and so we can choose to practice moving into gratitude as a spiritual practice, as a choice that we'd rather make than being down here in the low vibe. No matter how much it hurts, and no matter how much we have to struggle to get out of our cage or get out of our shell, we're going to keep trying, because eventually we're going to strengthen our wings to the point where we're able to fly off that tree and be up there in the high vibe and see with God's eyes. So my question I have for you this morning is, where are you at on the tree? Are you the little bug holding on for dear life, like, I don't know what's going on, like, I don't know who I am? Like, maybe in one part of your life you are. Well, the good news is that can change. That can transform. You might not be able to see it right now. You might be struggling to get out right now, but just know that whatever you're going through is a growing pain that's going to strengthen you to be able to be that example for others. So that when you're finally using your powers of love and wisdom full out, you are an example to the world of how to reflect God, manifest God, to work with spiritual principle. So just know that wherever you are on the scale this morning, we're all in the same boat. We're all just learning to fly, one wing at a time.
Started
we have 5 basic principles that we teach, practice, and study here at Unity. Our first principle, let's say it together. There is only one power, one presence,